A nurse who lost her job, but not her humanity. When she saved a stranger's life, she had no idea that her life was going to change completely 24 hours later. 4 luxury cars were parked outside her house. But why? Who sent them? And most importantly, where was her life going to turn now? Nina Harper had spent the last 8 years working tirelessly as a nurse at Westwood Medical Center. She wasn't just good at her job, she was exceptional. Patients loved her, doctors respected her, and her colleagues admired her dedication. But none of that mattered when she stood up against the hospital's administration. It started with a mistake, a life-threatening one. A patient had been given the wrong medication due to a clerical error. Nina caught it just in time and prevented a disaster, but when she reported it, she was told to keep quiet and move on. That didn't sit right with her. She pushed for accountability, demanding that protocols be changed. But instead of being praised, she was called into a meeting and handed a termination letter. "You're an excellent nurse, Nina, but we can't have someone questioning the system like this," her supervisor said, almost sympathetically. Nina walked out of the hospital in disbelief. Her hands trembled as she gripped the envelope containing her final paycheck. No severance, no warning, just a cold goodbye. That night, she wandered the streets, lost in thought. Her rent was due, her savings were thin, and jobs in the medical field weren't easy to come by without references. She had always believed in doing the right thing, but what good was it now? Then, as she passed a dimly lit street corner, she saw a man stumble and collapse. Her instincts kicked in immediately. "Sir, can you hear me?" she asked, kneeling beside him. He was an older man, possibly in his 60s, dressed in a suit, but drenched from the light rain that had begun to fall. His breathing was shallow, his skin pale. A heart attack. Without hesitation, Nina began CPR. She worked tirelessly, her training taking over even as her mind raced. This was the first time in years that she had used her skills outside the walls of a hospital. And yet, here she was, saving a life. By the time the paramedics arrived, the man had a pulse again. The EMTs took over, loading him into the ambulance. "You saved his life," one of them told her. But Nina wasn't thinking about that. She was thinking about how she'd wake up the next morning with no job, no prospects, and no idea what came next. Nina woke up to the sound of honking outside her tiny apartment. Groggy, she pulled back the curtain and nearly dropped her coffee mug. 4 luxury cars, sleek, expensive, and completely out of place in her worn-down neighborhood, were parked outside. A black Rolls-Royce stood at the center, flanked by a Bentley, a Ferrari, and a Lamborghini. The sight was surreal, like something out of a movie. Then a tall man in an impeccably tailored suit stepped out of the Rolls-Royce. He exuded power and confidence. A driver rushed to open an umbrella over his head as he walked toward her building. A knock at the door made her heart pound. She hesitated before opening it. "Miss Harper?" His voice was deep, controlled. "Yes?" "My name is Alexander Grant. My father is the man you saved last night." Nina blinked. Grant. The name sounded familiar, and then it clicked. Howard Grant, the billionaire real estate mogul. One of the wealthiest men in the country. She had saved his life? Alexander continued, "I don't believe in coincidences, Miss Harper. You were meant to be there last night, and I was meant to be here today, to thank you properly." Nina shifted uncomfortably. "You don't have to thank me. I was just doing what any nurse would do." He smiled slightly. "That's where you're wrong. Most people would have walked past. You didn't. That's why I'm here." He gestured toward the cars. "These are yours if you want them. A token of my appreciation." Nina's eyes widened. I can't accept that." Alexander seemed amused. "Then perhaps something else. My father needs a personal medical advisor. Someone to oversee his health, travel with him, and ensure he's cared for by the best. The salary will be generous. Nina hesitated. This sounded too good to be true. What's the catch? She asked. Alexander's expression turned serious. No catch, just an offer. One that could change your life. But deep down, Nina knew that nothing came without a price. The next 24 hours were a blur. Nina was taken to a 5-star hotel, given a personal shopper to replace her worn-out clothes, and invited to meet Howard Grant himself. The elderly man looked much better than the night before. "You saved me," he said simply, "and now I want to return the favor." He explained that he had been searching for someone like her, a medical professional with integrity. He wanted to create a private clinic for people who couldn't afford top-tier care. The role would be demanding, but the impact would be enormous. Nina's heart raced. This was more than just a job. This was everything she had ever wanted, to help people without the red tape, without the politics of hospital administration. But was she ready to step into this world of wealth and power? Could she trust them? That night, she sat alone in the luxury suite Alexander had arranged for her. She thought about the hospital that had discarded her, the patients who had relied on her, and the man who had collapsed on the street, alive today because of her instincts. She had been searching for a purpose, and now it had found her. The next morning, she made her choice. She walked outside, where Alexander was waiting. "So?" he asked. "I'll do it," Nina said, "but not for the money. For the people who need me." Alexander smirked. "I wouldn't expect anything less." As the Rolls-Royce pulled away, Nina realized that losing her job wasn't the end of her story. It was just the beginning of something far greater than she had ever imagined. And it all started with a single moment of kindness.